Let's see if third time's a charm. So we are working on our live video today with my dad. We're having a little bit of trouble getting connected. I know Facebook has done, well, for better or for worse, an excellent job of making sure that we all can find everybody, but at the same time, sometimes technology can make it difficult for us to connect. He's having trouble finding the video. So cyberspace can be an interesting place to navigate. Ah, there he is. Okay, great. All right. We are adding him now. We are on our way to DC. And here we go. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Sorry, we were taking a little bit of time to reach you there, Dad, but we got you.
Yeah, again, I'm not, the internet's not working, so I'm running off my phone, and maybe it's a slow load or something like that. I don't know. But you finally showed up on live, and you weren't showing up at all before. So, anyhow, we're here.
That can definitely happen. So, yeah, we're here. Well, so first and foremost, how are you and Mary doing?
That was a rough night. We were at the ER for 6 hours last night. So, and she went to work today just because she's stubborn. So I'm not gonna. But what can we do? That's what happens. So anyhow, everything is. I'll update you a little bit more. But she's just. She fights that kind of stuff. She's one of those people that she's not there. It's like they can't live without her or something. So anyhow, it's not a big deal. It's a big deal to me because I'm really worried. But the fact is, I'm not going to stress over something I can't control. So.
Well, touche to that. I think we have a number of folks in that boat.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, how are you? Where are you at? And what's going on?
Yeah, so we are on our way to DC. We are literally stopped at a truck stop at the moment. I am surrounded by very large semis on either side. So okay. I'm like sandwiched in between them, little old me.
All right.
And yeah, so we've gotten this kind of down to a routine. We get on the road. It's very important that we go ahead and get on the road because if we delay, then
yes.
and wait to do the interview, then there's always 15 other little small things that we have to do. So we go ahead, we get on the road, and then we just pull off to do the interviews, which so far has not been an issue. I've had to make some interesting stops and almost duct tape together data.
Okay.
Well, so a lot of people don't realize that when you buy an unlimited plan for data access, it's only fast for the beginning. And then once you use up that amount, then it's significantly slower. And so since I'm uploading really long videos, especially to YouTube, I've got one right now that's off to the side here, and it's been going for about 3 hours or so. And we're at, I think, 55-60%, which is which is still actually better than one of the last ones I did. I did it all night long, and we only got to like 28 or 30% or something like that. So that's what made me realize I had to find another apparatus and make sure, even though I have three apparatus that all have unlimited, and we've blown through them in 2 weeks. So yeah, it goes pretty quick. But to add more is $35 a pop, and I go through that about every 2 days. So I need some other alternatives, or I need more donors. And either works, but
we're sitting in the hospital last night. I was working on donations, so
yeah, well,
passing out cards and doing my thing.
It's a really interesting question. People, I think, have an I was talking to a reporter, and he said, how is it that you're qualified? I said, well, just because I'm not a fundraiser doesn't mean I'm not qualified for the job. And he said, well, that's true. We keep hiring people who are really great fundraisers, but do they know anything about the job? I said, No. So somebody like me who's going around doing literally, like today we're going to do a whiteboarding session. I'm going to show everybody how it is that we create national strategies. And so we're literally going to be in a whiteboard room, and I'm going to walk through how we look at policy, how we look at the different pieces of information, how we talk to experts, and then how we bring that together for a plan. That's an actual skill and something that you have to work on. It comes with experience and it comes with some capabilities. Fundraising, there's no time. There's no time to fundraise. If you're spending all your time fundraising, you're not spending your time doing the work. If you're spending your time doing the work, you don't have time for fundraising. But mostly, the biggest point is if your top skill is fundraising, we don't do that in the government.
Right.
So yeah, so it's an interesting conversation, and definitely I'm glad that my survival is not reliant on fundraising. However, success will require some fundraising at least.
Absolutely.
I don't have to have $1 billion, but we definitely need to pick up
900 million.
I had to get settled first.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's step by step, you know, and I don't want to dwell on this too long, only because I do want to get to the budget thing. One of the things that I discuss with people is the fact is how you're presenting the strategy of how you're going to get there, and you know they don't totally understand it, and I think it's even taken me a little while to really grasp the entire program and how we have to, you know, take it at a pace that we can manage, number one, and number two, at a pace that's going to accomplish the end task, which is to get to the debates and get up there and be able to share with, you know, your position on different things. I think you're doing a very good job on interviewing people and talking to people with some influence around the country, and I think some of those interviews are going to start paying off in great dividends as we move forward in this whole process. So
yeah,
you know,
I hope
going.
so. I got some really I was editing some film this morning, and we talked to a bunch of folks at the Carolina Raptor Center, and you know, the video just came out so nice, being able to share their views of how we fix the environment, how we empower people, how we inspire. And so I'm excited to post it. That's the one that's actually running right now, so hopefully it will get up today and keep moving. But yes, now that we're getting more into a rhythm and I know what my ask is for people and how much time I need and how to organize all the data, these will start coming rapid fire because I know how to do the interviews, right? This is what I did in government. This is what I know how to do. This is how I know how to connect. But if people ask, there's a short answer of how it is that you're successful. Normally, the answer is you raise a lot of money to be able to show that you have a lot of followers to be able to get on stage. And right now, that is the way the DNC is rewarding people. If you raise a lot of money, then you get to be on stage. What we're trying to do is say, alternatively, you can do really good work and raise an army of people that back you, not based on money, but based on knowledge and skills. It's a completely different way of doing things, but I stand by the belief that it's the right way to do it. The question will become, how much, I mean, I know at the surface, Americans favor capability and knowledge over money. I'm sure of that. But can you get enough into the public eye to get there?
Right.
I do think.
Well, that's the challenge. That's the challenge, and certainly from, again, when I state that I work hard at trying to communicate how that progress is going and what your goals are and how you're achieving those. I want to make certain that they understand before they even donate. But I mean, I tell them to donate all the time. But the fact is, the thing is, you know, your whole platform is about different. It's not about the same. It's not about being, you know, a cookie cutter, you know, platform or a cookie cutter campaign. It's about changing things for the better, getting the nation ready for the future, and becoming, you know, continuing, not becoming, continuing the greatness that we need to be and where we're going to be. I mean, and that challenge is everywhere and every day. And you know, I sat down in the ER last night where 6 hours of my life I'll never get back again, for just because they were so overwhelmed they couldn't handle the volume. It was just
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So anyhow, military budget.
Yeah.
That's
Huge.
a big subject. Yes.
Hundreds of billions.
Yes. And I guess, there's, you have these huge questions on the big side. What's our goal for the Navy for the 355 ships? Is that even enough? I've heard numbers that were even closer to 420. Are we going further on strategic planning going into space, and how is that going to be managed? How is everybody looking at AI and cyberspace attacks, where even our largest opponents, which are basically Russia and China, I believe they totally are in mode to not attack physically like we've done in the past. I think they're physically, how they want to position their world is to attack us from a cyber, type environment and shut us down in some fashion or form. So budgetarily, why don't you speak a little bit to that end, and how because I know with Monica and everything like that, you have a pretty clear understanding of how that's working with the cyber side.
Yeah, so, a little bit about my background for anyone who doesn't know. I come out of Force Education and Training. So our program reported to the Pentagon and was specifically focused on readiness, right? So understanding all the elements of ensuring that we have a ready force, and that crosses all branches of the military, as well as coordination with other agencies, which are referred to as the fourth estate. So if you don't know that term, the fourth estate is to suggest, hi Kathy, is to refer to all the other programs that work with our military branches. So just to level that, where I'm coming from on understanding. The second piece I would add is that you talk about budget. And so one of the major pieces that people are frustrated about is the infrastructure piece, ensuring that we constantly are at that infrastructure readiness level. And the best analogy I've been able to come up with is, think about if you have a house that's been devastated for one reason or another, whether it's flooding or a hurricane or something, right? And you go to, and this is really how this works, right? You go to the bank and you say, well, it's going to cost $300,000 to fix my house. And they say, great, we agree. We'll give you $100,000 to get started. And then when you get a little bit of progress, call us back and we'll come out and assess and give you the next $100,000. Well, guess what? The first $100,000 doesn't build you a roof, it builds you new walls. And so in the time frame it takes for them to reassess and come out and give you more money, you've had additional damage, which means that you don't need $300,000 anymore, you need $350,000, and so on and so forth. This repeats. The same thing keeps happening in the military. Every time Congress doesn't pass a budget, they can't, we no longer need just what we asked for. We need more than that, because we've actually had problems develop because we couldn't have continuous infrastructure support. So that's the baseline when it comes to the budget that has to be covered. What you're talking about, Dad, is what kind of environment are we going to go into from a warfare perspective? And you mark on two pieces. Well, I'll give it three. One is being at readiness in locations around the world, so that if it happens that we need to deploy, we're only so many hours or days away physically. That's why you need so many different ships and planes and whatnot. The second piece to it, though, is, are we going to be physically in battle or in battle in cyberspace? That is an excellent question. It's my understanding that everyone pretty much believes that we are going to be heavily going into space and cyberspace, but it will not eradicate boots on the ground, being physically present. So we need both. The problem is that when you get into budgeting for additional military personnel who have skills in cyberspace, the rank structure and the pay structure are not commensurate. they're not matching with what those people can get in around the country in different jobs. So this now poses a new problem. And I actually literally just finished my paper on this 2 nights ago. So I'm really versed now in how it is that we're going to get here. But what you have is a major cultural problem. The folks who want to be in many of the high-tech industries do not want to be involved with military. And they're making some demands. And military is very upset. There's actually some articles about the military in Silicon Valley. We do have government programs that are connecting to Silicon Valley specifically. One of them is out of Department of Homeland and is illustrated in my book. We have several innovation programs, a lot of innovation programs in defense. The only problem we have is they're not connecting. So the money has to cover that infrastructure. It has to cover the current battle space. It has to cover readiness, and it has to plan for the future and how it is that we're going to be approaching those new arenas that we're not fighting in now. And it adds one more wrench. You mentioned, Dad, that China and Russia are going to be our biggest adversaries. And definitely right now they are. But I will tell you firsthand from being overseas, technology is leveling the battlefield, the playing field, right? So what's happening is that smaller nations are more agile, as we say, because they can make changes quickly because they're small enough to do so, where we're very small, very large and clunky. I'm sorry. And so we're delayed in everything we do. They're much faster. Also, because we don't get our best and brightest always. Sometimes we do in the military, but we can't guarantee it. In other countries, they're able to guarantee that they get their best and brightest, even if it's by force. So you end up in cyberspace where you don't need a lot of resources or a lot of technology, and you're starting to battle, which means that our resources is in the mind now, which now gets into some pretty interesting stuff.
And I guess that goes back to what our subject is, the budget. Do you think Congress and understands that the budget for this task of trying to attract the brightest and the best, which we used to think we could do, are they willing, or do they even have the desire to do that? Is that, you've been impacted and you've walked through their hallways, okay, and seen some of it. If you could describe, do they have a willingness to go and fund some of this, or do we need to restructure some of the military thought on how to take these specialists and put them over in a different corner and maybe not structure it the same as we've always structured our specialists in other fashion and form?
Yes and yes. So I do think that Congress is well aware of the fact that we have both the same problem in government as we have in military, which is that the folks that are coming down the pike are not wanting jobs in the same way that we structured jobs in the past. So understanding talent management, both military and the government are working together on this point. And when I refer to government, I'm talking about the other 14 departments and agencies associated. And specifically to that point, I know literally the person who is tasked with this job. We have a 2-star lead in the Army that is tasked with it, and we have a liaison from Department of Defense Intel that is reporting to Office of Personnel Management right now, and they are working on making sure that our data management strategies across all of government and military are starting to sync up, because it deals in a lot of data space. So I know that deeply, and there is a lot of commitment to recognizing how to do that. We're also pulling overseas and looking at ways that other countries are having to deal with some of these issues. So the United Kingdom right now, UK, they are actually doing some pilot testing, having cyber defenders enter at the 1-star level and trying to see if that works from a talent perspective. We in the United States are trying some other similar concepts. We just have stood up through Marforce Cyber, which is the Marine Corps. They are standing up a volunteer cyber entity, and that information was released last month, so maybe like 3 or 4 weeks ago. So they're taking applications right now for the Marine Corps to try and stand that up. We also have Hacking for Defense, which is connecting to some of the major universities and creating kind of a synergy of thought process to try and bring information in. And then we have our innovation program. So there's a lot happening in DoD to try and maximize our plan forward and minimize cost, but it takes time. And I would say the number one thing we're missing is that coordination piece to ensure everybody's working together. When we talk about Congress, I think they're on board, but Congress has some particular challenges. Number one, they have to make sure that they are speaking for their singular location. So what that translates to when you're on the Hill as a government employee, it means people ask less about your great ideas and more about where you're spending money on contractors. So this poses a serious challenge because they want to stratify or move money across locations, but sometimes we need to put it into single locations where we have our best capabilities. So I think the best way to work with Congress is to recognize that challenge and make sure that we are holistically moving money around the country and finding our best capabilities in different spaces. That's accomplished by making sure that we spread out our military bases and connections, and that's always moving. And that doesn't mean that we're closing them or opening them. It means that we have agencies and groups and contractors in different locations. So it's not actually difficult to do. It's just you have to know what the actual problem is, and I'm not sure that a lot of people have seen across all of these spaces to understand the true issue. And the true issue is where you spend money. But I'll add one last piece to add to the budget, and that is we have to recognize that in some ways we need contractors for military because they have specialty expertise that we cannot necessarily handle in our ranks full time. However, there are also cases where in an effort to give the message to America that we have a small government, we actually increase the amount of money we spend by, I estimated it 4 to 10 times per contractor of what it would cost for us to have a government or military employee doing the same work. So we need to find a better balance in that, and there would be substantial funds saved. But of course, you always have the same problem, which is the contractors are in a certain location in the country. They go tell their senator or representative, and so then the money vote keeps moving. But I do think there is a way to balance that. I'm sorry, that's a lot, but I mean, there's a lot to this budget. The defense budget is serious business, and there are a lot of layers to it.
Well, it's what, 60–70% of the government's budget, pretty much.
It's relatively 50%. The other 14 departments and agencies, and then DoD, it's right about half. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just an interesting point, if we were to close all of the government except for defense, we would still be in debt every year. Even if we closed everything down, we would still be negative every single year.
Right.
Yeah, are you back?
Yeah, you must be experiencing my end also. I don't know if it's what's going on there. Can you hear me or see me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. All right. You were
me?
breaking up, and I'm sure you lost me a little bit too. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah,
now.
I did.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, it sounds like we're back.
Yes, it sounds like we're back on the satellite made a good turn for us to be in communications.
Yeah.
You know, I think most Americans are confused, or not confused, but concerned that we're spending money in some things that would be better spent on the military and vice versa. I think the controversy between, is a strong military um, being staffed and being, money being spent on in lieu of some other projects that are more humanitarian and that kind of stuff. And I think it's important from your side to clearly send a message on how both have to be coordinated together in order to be successful and keep the nation at a ready side. And that's a strong, hard message to sell, because on one side, folks, certainly from my walk of life and, our age, we've always felt, quite strongly that our military is the separation between us being something that we're not currently are. It keeps, and our borders are protected by that. We also have two oceans that really protect. Most people don't think about that, but our oceans have saved this country the onslaught of any other nations coming across and coming in. So they're really our buffer zone from that standpoint. Some people are isolationists. They don't think we need to be involved in every place on the planet and everything like that. I think I hope you can communicate some of that out and get it so that they can understand, and you can get them to understand that it's critical to be in both theaters at the same time with some coordinated efforts to take care of that. One of the things we don't do very well, and I know, I don't think people realize, but they don't want us to occupy certain areas of the world, okay? However, if we hadn't continued to occupy or put our positions in Europe, it wouldn't have economically grew at the pace that it did. If we didn't put ourselves and occupy and certainly contribute to the well-being of the Pacific, it wouldn't be in the same position as it is today either. I think, and folks need to understand that those are, while as distasteful as it seems, and certainly monetarily it's extremely expensive, I think the Middle East is now the third leg of that stool, where we have to kind of keep it stabilized in order to continue for the rest of the world to be stable. Because if we don't help stabilize that, and I'm not taking people out of the other countries out of that process, because they're as greatly involved as they should be, the fact is we have to continue to stabilize that area to keep everything in a, I guess, for a better term, to save lives and prosper. I mean, safety is what everybody wants. I mean, they want to live in a safe environment. They don't want to live in a violently conflicted area. I mean, it's, either it's nonviolent conflict resolution or it's violent conflict resolution. Yeah. It's a pretty simple process. And we're trying to reduce that, where everybody thinks we're trying to harm, build it up. And that's just that's not the mission. So you communicating that is going to be interesting, and see how you manage that whole process and do it and talk about it.
Yeah, it's hard to, it's so complex that it can be very difficult to clarify. So I'll try and go through some of your points. One is, I just cannot foot stomp it enough. I stand by the military, period. So what we need in DOD, we need to make sure that we are providing. Having now had extensive experience overseas in military, structural organizations and strategizing, the work we do does touch humanitarian efforts. It does touch first responders, and it does protect this country. That said, and also I'll add, having worked now across departments, DOD is light years ahead of almost all of them. And what we haven't done that we absolutely can and should be doing is sharing the capabilities from DOD with the other departments. A couple of examples. As soon as Puerto Rico happened, I was on the phone with the Coast Guard and with FEMA saying, what in the world? I'm used to us being at readiness to handle these kinds of things, ensuring that the population that's going to be affected is at readiness. And they weren't, and we weren't. And the responses I got back were, we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the training, we don't have the access to technology. And I said, that's ludicrous, because we have it in DoD at our fingertips, and literally we can share it for little or no cost at all. It is simply the fact that people are unaware across departments what exists. So that does need to occur. But Dad, you have to keep in mind, the person who knows DoD doesn't necessarily know personnel management or housing and urban development or health, HHS and DOJ and all these other departments. We very rarely get a crossover, and we keep hiring politicians, and they don't understand the crossover because they're coming from Congress. So there is a systemic issue or a continuous problem that the people who know the answers are not the people in the authority to make decisions. The next part you comment on is, should we be overseas and involved in activities? Certainly in a vacuum, there are, in fact, there's particularly a candidate that keeps saying it, we should not be policing the world. Agreed. In a vacuum, I agree. That we don't live in a vacuum, though, and that's not the reality of the way things work. So at the strategic level, I can tell you, and this doesn't come from me, this comes directly from former Secretary Mattis, and is in the National Defense Strategy. We will not be doing single nation military action anymore. It is not reasonable, it is not effective, it's not efficient, and it's not intelligence-wise a good strategy. That is clarified across all political parties. It doesn't necessarily come to our people, to Americans, but that is the expectation, that we will always do multinational efforts, because that is the most strategic way to operate. So the notion that we're not going to be involved, that we're going to be isolationists, is just simply not going to happen. And again, not because I'm saying it, because that is where we are with things. And then last, I would say, there's the question that you said, do we have to occupy? Do we have to be involved? Where does this go? This is extremely complex. I've had people try and nail me down. Do you go to war? Do you not go to war? Do you agree with occupation? Do you not? I'm like, time out. This is a very strategic, deep, and wide conversation. And it's not decided by a single sentence or punchline, right? If you are not at the table when decisions are being made at a beginning level, then you have a major problem at the end. And so if you're not involved, you can't get away from some of the problems that occur. So the example I like to give, I used to do this when I saw patients in therapy. I said, you can never accrue debt, or you can spend what you want now and pay with interest later, right? So it's always wiser to make good decisions initially, so we're not paying with interest later. The same thing happens in defense. The same thing happens in weight management. The same thing happens in everything, right? If we are proactive and making decisions and monitoring situations, we can deal with problems when they are small and save both ourselves money, time, and most importantly, our personnel's lives before we run into problems later. I think that, of course, I was talking to one of the other candidates from, people that gets out there and talking, was really in my face. And I said, look, of course I don't agree with going to war senselessly. But at the same time, thinking that we should not have any involvement preemptively, that's not logical either. So I'm sorry, I know that's a little bit more of an answer, but I feel strongly that we have to recognize military action is very complex. And if you can solve everything with a declaration in one sentence, then you don't know strategic military at all. And I think as Americans, we need to we don't have to understand all of it. I don't need every single person in this country to get it all. And nobody could, because we only have unclassified information available to us, and only a subset of that. So everybody arguing maybe has 5% of unclass information. Even the people who are, I was at the table and I was missing a lot of information. So it's irresponsible and it's dangerous to make blanket assumptions on any of this. Very complicated. So our job instead should be to hire the most knowledgeable, the person who has experience in this space, the person who recognizes multiple pieces, right? From weaponry to management of talent to empowerment and proactive planning forward. And then also look for somebody who process-wise is going to work with a team, right? Coordination and connection mean better solutions for less money and fewer lives cost. So maybe that's your punchline.
Well, I and you know, I think one of the biggest points, and I'll take the one that is the best for the example that you gave about the Puerto Rico situation.
Yeah.
It's an example of lack of having great lines of communication. And I think one of the things that you've been striving for, and this is why I think you need to focus, or I know you are focused on it, but is breaking down those walls of lack of communication between departments of the government, because physically, from a budgetary standpoint, it is fiscally costing us millions of dollars because they don't talk. And they're not in the same process, and there's not a single solitary person coordinating this.
Right.
I think they tried with the Homeland Security situation to kind of bring a lot of that to the table and try to enhance the communications between each department. I don't know that I don't think they're meeting that goal.
I know they're not.
Okay.
I know that with firsthand knowledge.
So they're definitely not making that happen. And I think, and I'll use business. It doesn't matter which large organization you work in. I don't care if it's a government or a large corporation or whatever. Communications between departments and skill sets and leadership has to be. It's the only way they get to be. They only win. You can see examples of large corporations that have failed after years and years of their. I'll take a company that just recently is basically out of business, and that's Sears. Sears Roebuck was the Amazon of the past.
Right.
Why wasn't their leadership able to figure out how to compete with an Amazon when their history and their entire being was the mail order business? That's what they were, that's what they did. And we can't fail at a national level like they failed at their level because of lack of direction and coordination and everything. In leadership, it's hard to find leaders that can think past that kind of stuff and get there. I guess I'm trying to make sure that. Well, I guess what I'm trying to do is have people that are listening to our discussions here find you as a person that can at least initiate some of that and break down some of those walls and initiate some of those processes quicker, faster. And I think the whole title of being a ready nation is really what this is about. And that's a core value as far as I'm concerned. It's a core value of your campaign. It's a core value of what everybody who is working with you, including myself. I express it on a daily basis. If I talk to people, it's not about the, separation and we can take the military budget and set it over here in the, housing development. If they don't coordinate their efforts, we're not going to be successful, and our tax dollars are going to go to waste. I mean, it's just like throwing them into a fireplace, and we're not, it's just going up in smoke, and and there's a danger to that. So I'm banging your drum for you a little bit, but it's a case that needs to be addressed, and I hope your message is received, because I think it's such an important message.
Well, you are a little biased, Dad, but I definitely will take the
Well, yeah, there is a bias there somewhat. I don't know.
No. But okay, but to be fair, to be concrete, your point about connection and coordination across the system, there's actually a reason they don't coordinate. And that was my real job in government, was to go to figure out why don't they coordinate, and what is it we do to fix it. So there is a solution, It's not difficult, but it requires Americans to value somebody who understands changing that structure, because you actually have to change the structure of government. But it is completely doable. It requires, one, creating budgets that connect, two, creating line items for Congress that they fund the in-between, that coordination, and three, requires somebody who understands the intricacies of all the humans, because it's that human element that matters so much, all the people that are working in government. But and it takes years to study that, and it takes particular skill sets. So that is something I can do. It's not just a plan you can give to somebody, though. Coordinating this actually takes know-how, but also that human connection to be able to work. But it is completely doable. I absolutely am 100% certain if we achieve the impossible and I get into office, I can promise it, because it doesn't require Congress in any way. The second point, though, that you made, and I'll leave this as a bit of hope, but also a warning as we close out. You mentioned Sears. There was, and you talk about how they ultimately failed. But the thing is, they didn't fail in the beginning. They were very successful in the beginning. The reason they didn't continue to be successful is because the world started to change, and they didn't change with it. In other words, they were not resilient, and they were not agile in editing how they operated. They had one way of doing things, and they stuck with it. This is a hot topic in the military. It is a hot topic in the military budget. You hear frequently, it was good enough for me, it should be good enough for them. And the problem that you miss in that statement is that the world has changed. The environment is changing, and with it, we must change too. Because if we don't, we will end up just like Sears.
Right.
So we have to think differently, and I encourage your generation in particular, even if they don't buy into all the changes that need to happen, there needs to at least be a critical analysis, consideration, and respect to work together. We need the wisdom of the past, and we need the new ideas for the future. And if you don't have both, you will fail, predictably.
Right. Yes. It is predictable, too.
It's very predictable. It will happen. In fact, I give it 30 years.
It's a predictable end.
The military is jumping up and down, waving their arms, screaming at the top of their lungs. General Dumford said 5 years. So I mean, this is serious. This is not just something we're toying around with. This is not something they're really trying to help our country understand. We have real problems coming. They're not here today, so I know you can't see them, but they are coming, and we need to prepare for them. And we need to have people in those political spaces who buy into that message.
Well, if you can drill that through and get that piece, even just get that across to everybody around, because all your interviews and everything like that, everything has to have that as this core value of center that we have to, you know, that's what we need to do. I mean,
it is, and people are talking that way. The experts are saying the same thing. We just, you know, all of us who are experts, we're not experts in fundraising. We're not experts in being on TV, and we have to learn to be in order to be able to help everyone know what needs to be done and how they can help. And so if anyone's listening who, you know, wants to join in, people are coming to me. People are saying, how do I get involved? But, you know, it's not lost on me that we are a specific kind of group, but there's a lot of us. So if we keep connecting, we'll get there. We'll get there. People are vested.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dad. I hope
it is an investment.
Better. I guess she's going to work. She's good enough, but
well, just be careful, all those truck drivers out there, okay?
We will. We definitely will. Well, onward to DC, and if I may give a plug, at 3:30 today, I'm about to post it. We are going to be doing an interview with one of my teammates who I also worked with when I was in government. He's an expert in innovation and technology and user experience. And he services the government and military with a lot of the work. He's been part of a lot of the changes that are coming. So I'm excited to be interviewing him today. Around 4:30 today, we will also be doing a live whiteboard session on the environment. So pulling together and showing the process of how we build a national strategy. And then later tonight at, I think, 6 o'clock. I think 7 o'clock. I have to go know my own schedule. At 7 o'clock tonight, we are meeting with the Director of Policy for Power to Decide, which is a nonpartisan, it's very important to say this, nonpartisan support for helping young people get the information they need for family planning. So she works across both parties, and this is all about, again, proactive decision making and thinking. And so we'll be interviewing her tonight. So I've got a nice lineup. There's a lot to be learned. Obviously, all the videos will be live, but they will be watchable later. And then we start again tomorrow with some great ones as well. So keep up with us.
Is this going to be all on YouTube?
It'll all be initially be on Facebook, but I'm in the process of moving it to YouTube because YouTube allows me to connect similar topics. So like military will have its own list, environment has its own list, and then that will all be curated. I'm also working with a group called Guru that I worked with in the government, and they do open source, which means it's free cataloging of information to create actual lesson plans and what's the word I'm looking? I'm blanking on my word. Essentially, a lesson that you can take to learn all the information, but in one space. So we're going to be using that as well. That's an incredible group. They're moving education through Africa, through places where people can't get access. And when you start talking education for humanity, I start getting excited. There's a lot we can do. Yeah, so lots coming. Remember, we've got a lot today, more tomorrow, and then by the end of the month, you're going to start seeing things rolling. And I hope you've signed up for the race, Dad, so that you can hear our commentary.
I need, and I've been a little busy with Aaron on this kind of stuff, so I'll be very honest. I was glad I saw that we were going to discuss military budget because my brain had kind of gone empty on different things. I was always going to say, what are we talking about? But anyhow, yes. And I can't believe you can keep all that in your, in your bucket there, but congratulations. And you just keep up the work, and I'm looking forward to next Tuesday, and we'll nail her again and go from there.
Awesome, all right, Dad. Thanks so much. Have a good day.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.